right, guys, so I'm going to walk you through the process of what we're talking about for prototyping this. In other words, we're going to make a very basic version, and we're going to start by laying out some things on our on a regular sheet of paper. I've got my base plate here, my original base plate that I made, and then I've got my printed base plate, but I don't want to just take this and just make something quick, because this is going to take a lot of planning. So what I mean by that is, if you take a look here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line this up here, and I'm going to trace this. I'm going to put this in fast forward so you guys don't have to watch me go through the whole thing. So here we go. For the first step of what you're going to be doing, you are going to be taking this and you are going to be modeling how everything is going to fit in there. Now, a couple notes about the battery packs. We'll be getting extra battery packs so you can mount yours permanently, but you're going to have a plan for where you're going to mount your battery pack, where you're going to put your 3D mount. Now, there are two different types, and there will be options for both of them, because you'll be importing these. Part of that process is importing someone else's STL, and this is for the larger motors and this is for the smaller motors. Importing one of these into your design, and I'll have that set for you as well, where you can watch me put that in there. But you're going to have a placement for it. And if you take a look, these are vastly different sizes, but they're for different motors. This is going to be a little bit more powerful of a motor than this smaller one. So if you want it to have a little more strength for your fan, you're going to want to use one of these. All right. So I'm going to place this right here. Let's just say I place this here. Actually, you know what? The one I give an example online is this one. So I'm going to place this one here, because I want this to be at the rear of my vehicle. And I am going to place that as precisely as I can, and I'm going to trace it. All right. And then I'm going to label this motor mount. Now I'm also going to take the time to measure this as 12 centimeters from here to here. Now, just a word of advice. This would also be a great time that if you are going to be resizing anything, and many of you will need to resize it, or you worked it out, you decided, well, you've decided mine should be maybe a little wider, or maybe a little narrower, a little longer, a little shorter. This would be a good time for that. 8 centimeters here. Now, this is just so we can have a good working diagram. And then each one of these is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. And I'm going to write these also in equivalents for 80 millimeters and 120 millimeters, because that is the sizes that we'll use online. This is 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters. And that also goes for every one of these. Every one of these cutouts is exactly the same. All right, so they are all 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. And some of them don't look like that. When you trace things, it doesn't work out precisely. So you might want to double check that to see if it is 1 centimeter. Mine don't look very much like 1 centimeter at all. All right, so I'm going to trace this out here a little bit, but they should be roughly about 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Now, the next thing that I'm going to need is I'm going to need my switch. And my switch is going to be wired somewhere. Now, I'm going to need to measure this, and so this is the next key component. I'm going to have to add measurements to this. And if you see here, if I'm on my centimeter side of my ruler, I'm going to have to measure how wide this is. That little lip is going to be really important that you measure how big that is, because you'd like this to fit really cleanly, so that this can just slide down into place, all right? So if you can get this to slide down in, you are off to a really good start. So I'm gonna put mine like sideways, so my on-off will be sideways from that. And then I'm gonna trace out where I want my wires to go. So I think I want my on-off switch to be about right here, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that. a switch. I have my mount, and of course that motor, there's a motor that's going to be coming from that, and so I'll be marking that with a red pen and a black one for my positive and my negative. All right, my battery pack is going to go back here. All right, so once again, I'm going to check and see what my dimensions are for my battery pack. And my battery pack is, looks like, and now I'm going to talk about the wiring. So I've got a positive lead coming out here. My positive is always my red. So I'm going to draw this here. Okay, so there's going to be a connection in here that's going to go into here. All right. And then my negative is going to go from here to my switch, and then from my switch into my positive, and there's going to be a connection here. Car diagram. All right. Now, I've got to have measurements in a couple different places, so let me show you a couple things that I have not done yet. I should have measurements here and here. I should have a measurement here and here, and a measurement here and here. I would like all of you to be able to make those so that when it looks like a final project, we are talking about measurements. Now, I am not telling you what my measurements are, and that is really important because I want you guys to get used to measuring. And so these should be in millimeters. If you put it in centimeters, put them in both, just like I have it, okay?
All right, guys, so I'm going to show you a little trick here. You'll notice that I've got this little piece pulled up. This is perfect for fitting the smaller motors in. I might give you a file to fit the bigger motors as well, which I printed up before. You'll hear the 3D printer running in the background. Don't get distracted by that. I'm printing up one of these. But here's the thing is, you don't need this printed version of this. Here's what you will need to do with this. If you have this item, which I will make available to you. I downloaded this from Thingiverse. You can take this and you can make adjustments to it. For instance, you could cut off these pieces using a hole tool. You could make holes and cut these pieces off. You could make additional holes in different places, or you could copy some of this. Now, everyone take a look. I'm going to go back into my system, and you'll see in Tinkercad here what I'm going to do with this to kind of make this really cool. Because you're going to not only have to incorporate this element into your design to be able to hold a motor, either this one or another kind. I'm going to go into my original design, which you should have. All you have to do is say tinker this, and then you'll be able to tinker it. Now, here's the coolest thing is once you have downloaded this STL, which I've called, I think it's 130 something. I might give it a different name. I'll say import. And I'll say choose my file. Now I could just click and drag it over as well. I do have that available to myself to click and drag over, but I'll choose this from my system, 130 holder SL is what it's called right now. And then I say import. Now watch what happens. This is cool. There it is right there. I have this in place. Now, you'll notice that it's sunk in to this. I can go down and I can see the bottom of it. I don't want it quite sunk in. I want to raise it up. And I don't want to raise it up all the way because I don't need to print all those parts of it. I'm going to sink it down so it's flush level with this. And then I'll know that it's going to fit up because take a look. If I pull this up a little bit, it's just going to show me the bottom of it. So I'm going to sink that and it's going to be flush level. And then I am going to be putting this piece, I'm going to pull this all the way to the back, and I'm going to try and evenly space it out. So because I want my propeller to be in the very back of this. So I'm going to look here, I'm going to zoom out here. You can see kind of what I'm working on. Here we go. And that looks like it's 17 and 79/100 one way. Kind of even it out. There we go. All right, so that should be pretty evenly spaced. And I just want to make sure it's flush with the back as well. Flush means even with, okay? So it's flush with the bottom, flush with the back. So right there, I now have a new design, all right? It has now added this little motor housing bracket so that I don't have to tape it down. One of the most important things for this last element is that you're not taping a bunch of stuff on there. So I've put that on there. All right, so that's the first element that you're going to need to work with, is you're going to be installing a motor housing. Now, it could be this one, or it could be the other one that I showed you guys that you actually have for the bigger motors. Totally up to you. You make your decision. All right. Hopefully you learned a little something there. You have to import this, then you can go ahead and raise or lower it. And then, of course, when I have this, the last thing is Control A for all, which will select all my things. And then once again, I just join it just like this. And bang, look at that. It is one nice clean shape. I can print that with no problem. That'll be pretty awesome to actually print in there. Now, I'm going to still have to have space for my battery pack, which I'll probably put somewhere back here, and then an on-off switch somewhere where I've got to have to install that as well. Plus your design element. We'll talk about what that design element is in a little bit, all right? So good luck. Happy constructing.